Hello everyone and welcome along to Racing Weekly, a podcast and YouTube show brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. Delighted to be back in this chair, although I feel somewhat of a fraud because the man to my left, Steve Ryder, last week tipped up Wizard of I in this chair. Hopefully his skills remain as brilliant as they do in that chair. And in the chair on my right, Steve Mellish, back once again with us. Steve, how have you enjoyed the flat season so far?
Yeah, good. Looking forward to a period of some decent ground, I suppose. But we had that at Chester last week. The ground was pretty good, and I've enjoyed it. I think it's a great time of year because you're all making early predictions about who you think will win various classics. So I think it's a really interesting time of year.
All right, Steve, are you reflecting on the glory of Wizard of I's performance? What price, when you tipped him up originally on the show last week, what price was he?
So 20-1, the 16s with Bet365. Yeah, nice. And then well gambled.
Did you enjoy the race? I mean, it must have been quite thrilling to watch it.
Yeah.
Having backed him in the week at big prices.
So thankfully, Charlie Fellows did his interview before and said, right, we're going to change tactics, we're going to hold him up, because if not, you'd have thought, oh no, what are you doing, Tom Mark one? But yeah, absolutely fabulous. Got the gaps, brilliant ride, and yeah, looking at the handicapping, only gone up £3 today, so all leads on to the Wokingham, hopefully. Yeah,
we'll talk more about Wizard of I specifically in just a moment. But Steve, if we could get one horse that has perhaps made an impression on you so far this season, or maybe something that hasn't run yet, something to follow for people watching the show.
Made an impression? Yeah, check me out. The horse who made the biggest impression is the horse who sadly passed away last week. I thought that was the Hidden Law, who we were going to touch on there, but I thought that's been the best Derby trial. I think it's a real sense of, I think we've lost a real good one there, a real good one. Yeah. I think that neither the classics didn't particularly float my boat, as in anything that was stunning. The Godolphin winner of the 2000 Guineas was very good.
No, it was
but I can't say I've been completely blown away by anything. Handicappers, but they're, which is what I tend to bet in mainly, and I'm interested in a number of them. I've got a whole list of horses I'm interested, but I'm not going to bore people here with those, because they want specific things as well,
All right, keep
Brighton that on a Monday sort of thing.
Keep that up your sleeve. And Steve, is there anything that is in the Wizard of I category that you think you've got lined up for this week?
Yeah, I love York as a meeting, particularly course and distance form. York's a bit of a weird track where if you run well at York, you often run well at York, and there's some horses that just don't handle it. So yeah, I've got plenty to come.
Brilliant. Well, that sets up nicely for what's to come a bit later on in the show. Now though, it's time for this week's racing recap. And we start at Chester. Obviously, some very good racing at Chester over the last week or so. And Zoffee won the big race, the Chester Cup. Give credit to connections, particularly the owner, Alan Peterson, who obviously hasn't got quite as much credit as Michael Owen has done for the horse. But Hugo Palmer and Harry Davis, a plan that clearly was in the making for a long time. What did you think of the race?
I thought that's a great story, first of all. It's a very important meeting to the whole team. The horse was proven at the track, which is a good thing. Got a great ride, got the breaks, but you need that to win at Chester. I thought it was a good Chester Cup. I thought it was a good Chester Cup and a good consolation actually for various. I thought they were good this year. They were interesting races, and it was a plan well done. I think you could easily see the horse running well, but I think you could argue it's the best performance he's put up for a little while. So yeah, it was good. It was good and a good story.
Obviously, he'd run well in the race the year before. I believe the Northumberland Plate will be the target for him. Is that right?
Yeah, logical step. I was actually there, first time at Chester.
Oh, what did you make of it?
Chester Cup Day, loved it. I've wanted to go for the last few years, and the last couple of years have been horrendous weather, so I've missed it. But yeah, the sun was out, and it was a really good atmosphere. I thought it was a brilliant ride by Harry Davies. Rode him for a bit of luck, but yeah, up the inside at Chester and just managed to get out in time. I thought it was really nice the fact that his mum is Hugo Palmer's assistant, so there was emotional scenes afterwards. Yeah. Hugo Palmer was under a bit of pressure. He'd had 17 losers at the meeting before that, and Manor House Stables, and yeah, I think they'd have bitten your hand off to have just that one winner for the whole week. But yeah, good performance from the horse. I think this was probably the big day. Obviously finished second in it off a £3 higher mark the year before. So yeah, he's won his race for the season, I think.
One comment. I do think, I don't think it's a race we're talking about. I do think the consolation race, I think the horses who dominated that will prove a cut above the average stage. I think that's a better race. I really do. I think in terms of part of this is projecting the future.
Anything in particular that struck you from that race?
I thought Alphon, the winner, who was off a very low mark, 73 or 74, but is that rarity it's a stayer with a turn of foot. I think that's going to be really. Races like the Northumberland Plate, where the horse will go. Obviously, was gone up the race. He'll probably only get in the consolation. But I think he's a really dangerous horse. He's totally unexposed at that trip. He'd been running over shorter, and he got it really well. And I thought that was the times were similar. I thought it was a really good race. I thought Hamsianu ran second. There was a moment where the horse eventually, I've gone blank on the horse. Law, the horse who was
in the black and white.
Turn for home in front.
Yeah.
Who'd run really well in the race before, and the race was all over. And these two just picked them up like they were standing still. And I do think that might be a race that really works out in the staying races this year. Probably different direction. Alphonse probably doesn't want any further, but Hamsian probably does.
Yeah, Alphonse Legrand running up a sequence. Okay, keep that in mind. Let's switch our attention to the classic trials that we saw. Steve has already alluded to one race. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But Forest Fairy, I believe she is going to head to the Oaks. 14-1 with Bet365 for the Oaks. What did you make of her performance, and how convincing a trial do you think that was?
I thought it was one of the better trials. A few of the trials you kind of look at and you go, no, I don't really think that's got a chance. I think she has got a chance at Epsom. She travelled well into the race, and I thought she was actually going to win it quite comfortably. But I think a bit of inexperience, she'd only had one previous run before that, kind of showed a bit late on. But yeah, she was unraced at 2, ended up being an impressive debut winner, and I thought it was a good performance to win this. Rafe Beckett obviously has a few to go to war with in the Oaks. He's got a good record in the Oaks. Obviously won it with Look Here and Talent. And yeah, I'd probably have her top of the list for his team heading to the Oaks.
All right, what did you make of it? And by the way, this phrase that keeps getting brought up now almost incessantly this season because of what's happened with Notable Speech, etc. and El Malka. People go, oh, here comes another horse from the all-weather that's now doing... It's been going on for a long time. It's not just this season. Good horses have been running on the all-weather.
Didn't enable sale on the all-weather.
Thank you. I mean,
Jack
the list is relentless.
Yeah,
I mean,
ludicrous, yeah.
But obviously now everyone's going, well, everybody's now... it's a new thing.
Okay.
So it's just one of my bugbears.
Good luck with them spotting the right ones then. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think her biggest asset, I thought she stayed really well. She had to wait briefly for a run, and then she was really strong at the finish. And I think that's an underrated quality at Epsom. The real thing that a mile and a half at Epsom is a stiff mile and a half. And so I think that's an asset. I think the actual level of form is some way below what's required, but she's lightly raced, as Steve was pointing out, and open to any amount of improvement. So I can certainly see the logic in running her.
The Chester Files was won by Hidden Law, who sadly suffered an unfortunate injury. Our commiserations to all connections involved with that horse. It was a brutal moment watching it happen. Steve alluded to at the top of the show, it was an impressive performance from a horse who'd clearly improved very quickly, and it's obviously sad that he's met a demise. What can we make of the race as a guide to the future?
Yeah, I was gutted. I was on the school run. I was at the park with my daughter after picking her up and watched the race on my phone. Brilliant, right? Excellent performance, put it away, and then suddenly went back onto Twitter about 20 minutes after and went, whoa, I didn't see that happening. I then watched it back. I thought Richard Hoyle's dealt with it superbly. Was obviously on the show last week. Yeah, absolutely brilliant in what can only be described as a freak accident. I thought as the performance was really impressive. I thought Tom Marquand gave Agenda a brilliant ride. I thought he'd stolen it from the front, and then suddenly Hidden Law stayed on really well and won comfortably. It'd be interesting to see what they do with Agenda going forward. I then looked through and saw if he was entered into the Derby, because if Ballydoyle need a pacemaker or want a truly run race for City of Troy, I thought he would be the perfect horse to do that. But I don't think he's in the Derby. But yeah, whether they decide to supplement him, but yeah, he could have a bit of a serpentine about him if he got away on the front end.
I thought that was the interesting thing about his performance, Agenda, is the fact that Grosvenor Square travelled quite nicely behind, but could never lay a glove on him. No. Yet Hidden Law, who was also held up, just flew past him.
Yeah, I think he was by a long way the best. I mean, I think Agenda is interesting, and I agree. He'd be exactly what would be an interesting pace. But I think Hidden Law was just a real class act. I mean, in all the trials we've had to the Guineas, I definitely think that's by a long. For the Derby, I think by some margin, put up the best performance. But sadly, we're not going to see it, which is a real shame.
The Dee Stakes obviously took place at Chester last week, and Capulet overturned the form with Bracken's Laugh from the all-weather. Excellent ride from Ryan Moore. But are we seeing Derby contenders for Epsom, or are we seeing Derby contenders for perhaps elsewhere?
Yeah, I wouldn't be confident to get a mile and a half. It's by Justify, isn't it? And there is stamina in the family, but I'd be more confident about a French Derby. Again, and this is going to be a mantra I'm going to be repeating, I think in terms of what he ran to, I think he's got a mark of 109 or something like that. I'm not sure he improved massively on that. I just don't think that's classic standards.
Yep.
I thought he'd given a really good ride, but prior, if I'd been doing this last week, I would have been against Capulet because I had my doubts about her being very straightforward. I thought she looked a bit iffy at Newmarket a couple of times. I think ridden that way, he was much more genuine.
Yeah.
But in terms of quality, I don't think he's a top class horse.
No, and I also thought that on a more conventionally run track and race, I think Bracken's Laugh might beat Capulet again.
Yeah, he was my big eye catcher from the race. Just got caught in a pocket. It wasn't Finley Marsh's fault. You kind of look at these four-runner races and a lot of people go, how can you find trouble in a four-runner race? Yeah. But he was just caught in the pocket. It happens at Chester. Goes to the Hampton Court at Royal Ascot next. I hope Finley Marsh keeps the ride. It would be a nice thing for him easily, and we saw it with Richard Kingscote a couple of times last year. As soon as you find trouble in races, some of the owners are quick to take jockeys off. But yeah, I thought at Royal Ascot, I thought Bracken's Laugh, yeah, that was nice. But Capulet, I thought, yeah, the Derby would be relatively interesting. Ryan Moore seemed to think afterwards that 10 furlongs would be his bag. That might change with how well Diego Velasquez then ran in the French 2000 Guineas. Yeah, because he might then become their French Derby contender. So whether they kind of rejiggle the pack is another one. But you'd be disappointed to see him hit the frame in the Derby. Yeah,
well, he's 10-1 with Bet365 for the French Derby Capulet, around 16-1 with Bet365 for Epsom. We'll talk a bit more about the Derby picture after we've discussed the Lingfield race and also the Oaks. Obviously, we've spoken about those two contests. But just sticking with Chester for the moment, and Point Lonsdale won the Ormond. What sort of guide it is to the future, I'm not entirely certain, because I get the impression that they might want to have a go over further with Point Lonsdale. He's 12-1 with Bet365 for the Coronation Cup, but Aidan O'Brien's still talking about Auguste Rodin for that race, and obviously there'll be a huge gap between the two in terms of ability.
I think he's a bit underrated, and he's a really versatile horse. Like, he's a 5-time group winner now, ranging from 7 furlongs to 1 mile and 5. So Nicholas Abbey won the Coronation Cup after winning the Ormond Stakes. So they have got that in the past. It's where you want him to fit in as a second string. Do you want him to go to the Coronation Cup behind Auguste Rodin, or do you want to go behind the likes of Kyprios in the Ascot Gold Cup? But I think he always runs his race. I'd kind of underestimated him, I think. I'd kind of thought, you've fallen out of love, because he does take some rousting along. Yeah. Ryan Moore got a lot of plaudits for his ride on Capulet, but I thought he was brilliant only half an hour later on this horse. A different ride, but still, yeah, really strong in the finish. And yeah, it was a nice performance, but he'll always be the second string, I think, for the Aidan O'Brien team.
Fair summary?
Completely. And thinking back of the two you mentioned, I'd much rather have a second string for Anton Rodin on giving it 50-50, which Anton Rodin's going to turn up. Yeah. Kyprios is like he's a rally's race in the Gold Cup, and I think he's better. Yeah. Whereas Anton Rodin could come first, could come last, couldn't he?
Auguste Rodin, absolutely.
Okay, sorry.
Anton Rodin might be the first.
Maybe he's the one. Yeah.
What a name! You're giving names to the Cornwall team already.
They need help. They're good with names. They are good with names.
A good name for a horse who clearly travels very well.
Oh, good.
The Lockinge Stakes. Passenger was very impressive on his return to action. First run since he won at Windsor after a disappointing run in the Derby. What did you make of that performance and dismissing his run?
I thought it was superb, Rish, and I think if you watch, as you can tell on television pictures, he took an absolute age to pull up. He was full of running at the finish, full of running. Things went wrong in the Dante last year, and he was unlucky, and obviously the Derby or whatever, but I think one of the first trees, I think he's a classic Michael Stout improving horse. Well, the horse has got loads and loads of miles left in him. Yeah. I think you really saw a more mature horse, literally, and in the way he demonstrated it. He's a Group 1 horse for sure.
A Group 1 horse, and he is 8-1 for the Prince of Wales Stakes at the Royal Meeting with Bet365. What sort of impression did he create for you?
I loved him. In the parade ring, I stood with Ken, and there was no excuses. He was fit. He looked brilliant, and that was a performance that you wanted to see from him. I then look back at his form, and the form of that Dante hasn't actually worked out too badly. The win of the Foxes is probably the one that's done the least. He finished second in the Belmont Derby, but if you look back at it, the second White Birch has won his 2 starts this year at Group 2 and Group 3 level. The horse that he finished third and dead heated with, Continuous, obviously then went on to win the Great Voltager and the St Ledger. So at the time it was disappointing because of that brilliant debut win in the Wood Disson. But actually the form has worked out quite well. The Derby just came too soon. He was a bit keen, but he was a lot more professional in this race. I actually really liked his run at Windsor. I went back and watched it because I underestimated it at the time, but I liked the fact that I think Richard Kingscote could have waited a bit longer, but he was in front a long way, but really battled back at the finish. And this was kind of his coming-to-age performance, I think. I imagine when Richard Kingscote went to bed on Thursday night and went through the race in his head, that would have been pretty much as he'd hoped. Tracked through Isra, pulled out, won challenge, and was strong at the finish. But yeah, I think he'd have a brilliant chance in the Prince of Wales Stakes.
I also imagine when he went to bed on Friday night, he probably went through what horses might line up in the Prince of Wales Stakes to make sure that Ryan Moore is going to be on one of Aidan's. Because obviously it is Ryan Moore's ride if he's available. But I imagine that Richard Kingscote will be hoping and praying that Ryan doesn't have a ride. He does have a ride and that he can sit on passenger because he's exciting, isn't he, for the season? Fingers crossed.
Very much.
I'm not going to add any more to what's been said, but long live Sir Michael Stout.
Yeah.
The Victoria Cup at Ascot on the weekend. Wizard of Eye. I'll let Steve enjoy the glory of this moment. Terrific tip at the start of the show last week, during the show last week. 20-1 when you tipped it, and you had to endure a little bit of waiting for a gap, etc. But Tom Marquand's the right man to have on board to deliver a moment like that.
Yeah, and it was quite an easy case to be made. It sounds a bit harsh, but I'd say that Charlie Fellows is definitely a trainer upgrade from Stan Moore. First run after being gelded, he dropped below a mark of 100 for the first time in his career. Like, you look back at his form, he was running in Lockinge's, St James's
Travelling well in races like that as well.
Travelling well, and you thought the drop-in trip would then help him. I actually think a further drop back in trip to 6 furlongs would be exactly what he want. I was thrilled when I then checked the BHA site this morning and saw that he's only up £3 to 102. I'm sure that will then ensure that he goes for the Wokingham. They obviously have the option over 7 furlongs and the Jubilee Stakes, for which is 33-1 with Bet365. But yeah, I think they'd have definitely taken that £3 rise. And
I think Charlie Fellows is pretty keen on the Wokingham.
Would you be happy with that? He hasn't run over 6 furlongs for 3 years, has he?
That's fine.
Yeah, but you'd be confident about the 6
yeah.
Would you? Okay, fair enough.
6 furlongs at Ascot. I wouldn't be so sure 6 furlongs somewhere else.
I'd be concerned myself. Okay. But I certainly think that's a better option than the Jubilee, personally. You'll get a guaranteed strong pace in the Wokingham. There'll be a big field, won't there?
Yeah.
But you know the horse, you're probably right. Just from the outside, I wasn't entirely sure about the trip.
Anything else in the race that you...
No, fun enough, not particularly.
Yeah.
I thought the right horse won. I really do. I think he was value for more than he won by as well. I think he won well. Yeah. And I agree about the £3 rise. That's terrific. I was
going to say, I'm disappointed with Musidora. I think he's a horse that I thought time, when he won at the Dante Meeting last season, I thought it was a nice horse. But he's been so disappointing. I mean, he should have won on the all-weather, and then I thought he had a nice position in the race and found very little. So issues for him. Let's move to Lingfield and talk about the 2 classic trials. Yeah. And first of all, the Oaks trial, won by You Got Me, where obviously excellent ride from Hector Crouch on You Got Me. Rubies are red, awkward on the track. What did you make of her performance? And either likely to be a player at Epsom?
I'm not sure I particularly agree with either of the comments. Just for the sake of, I honestly thought that he went a bit too fast on You Got Me. I thought he was exhausted. She was exhausted at the end. I think the first 3 were the first 3 who were battling from there until Rubies and Red came late were out on their feet in the final 2 furlongs. I thought she's held on, and she's a very game horse, and she clearly stays well because she's gone plenty hard enough. Ruby's a Red, I've watched that race about 5 or 6 times because everyone said it didn't come down there, or maybe she didn't. Probably right, but I think she was absolute guaranteed turn the form around at Epsom. I think a stiffer track definitely will suit her, and it's a much stiffer, a mile and a half compared with 1 mile 3.5 at Epsom. The similarities are overplayed. I think there is more galloping at Epsom than there is at Lingfield. So if there is a horse to take out for the Oaks, I'd definitely have Rubies a Red.
I certainly agree with you for Rubies Are Red. I don't think she was that inconvenienced by the track. Almost it seemed as if the front three got away.
Yeah.
And then suddenly those behind realised that they'd got away.
I thought Ryan half accepted it going down there. I think he half thought they were going too fast.
Yeah.
That's right. And then they then had a bit of a bust up for the final three. Danielle come on the outside, and I was disappointed with her. I thought she was looked a really good horse when she won at Wetherby. Maybe the ground was too fast for her, but I don't think they were going anywhere in the closing stages. Certainly think if there is an Oak filly, I do think it's Rubies Are Red.
I would agree with that. What did you think, Steve?
I would agree with that as well, and I think the market has as well. The fact that the winner's 16-1 for the Oaks and Rubies Are Red is 9-1 kind of says it all really. Rubies Are Red is full sister to Found and Best in the World, who's the dam of Snowfall, who went on to win the Oaks impressively. So the breeding's definitely there, as many of the Ballydoyle horses obviously are in with the team that they've got. This was only her third start. She's not actually won a race yet. She looked outpaced, I thought, on the good ground. If there was a bit of rain in the build-up, that would definitely help her at Epsom. They can get away from you at Lingfield at that point, and I think if Ryan had the ride back, he'd prefer that.
First day of the Epsom 2-day meeting, they'll ensure the ground is always just on the slow side of good. Yeah. For safety reasons, I can understand. Yeah. It'll definitely be less. It was proper good to firm ground on times at Lingfield. It'll be less than that at Epsom.
Should we get a little snapshot? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say the fact that Ylang has shortened by standing in a box at home probably says it all around these trials, and the fact that we're all probably highlighting and seem more confident on a horse that's finished second in a trial.
Good point.
Probably says it all around the Oaks market.
That's a fair point. Obviously, there's still the Musidora to come as we record this, and there's the Dante. But I think maybe worth getting a little snapshot from the team for the Oaks and the Derby. So the Oaks, Ylang, as you say, 9-4 favourite. Rubies Are Red, 9-1. This is obviously all with Bet365. Tamfana, 9-1. Opera Singer, I'm not even sure she's going to make it. She's 12-1. I didn't even see her on the list of horses exercising at Ballydoyle earlier this week. Azalea, 14-1. Forest Fairy, who we've spoken about, 14-1. You Got Me, 16s. Danielle, 20s. Couple that are running this week. Classical Song, 25s. We'll talk more about that. But at this stage, Steve, for an Oaks selection, where would you go?
The prices you're giving me, given that the French 1,000 guineas region isn't supplemented at the last stage. I thought she was nice. Yeah. Ruhia. I like Rubies Are Red. I think it's a more certain stayer than Lang personally. Be interesting if it's taken as read that Ryan will be on. Yeah. That isn't guaranteed.
But it's also taken as read. Everyone seems to believe that Ylang is going to stay and want a mile and a half.
I think she'll stay a mile and a quarter. I wouldn't be guaranteed. Whereas certainly at the price you're giving me, I think that's reasonable. I think she's going to be very hard to kick out the frame.
I'm on side with that. What about you?
I'd be with the Ylang, to be honest. With the strength of these trials, I'd always think that the Guineas is always the best trial for the Oaks and the Derby, and the way that she was staying on at the finish, and the way that she stayed on at the finish in the Fillies Mile last season, I do think she's a worthy favourite. At this time, would I be in a rush to take the price? No, I wouldn't.
I get the point everyone makes about her being proper stayer and she's a standout and form, etc. The only thing is, she's run at Newmarket 3 times now. And yes, it could just be down to the fact that she wants further. But each time she's run at Newmarket, she's come down the dip with a little bit of awkwardness. So I'm not saying that means she can't handle Epsom, but you would like to see them glide down there because Epsom's going to be a much tougher test. So that would be my one caveat if you're going to back Ylang. Okay, so that's a look at the Oaks. The Lingfield Derby trial was won by Ambient Friendly. Very impressive in the Gredley colours. Pleased to see James Fanshawe with a very good horse, a good 3-year-old. And a 3-year-old that clearly they've always believed in. And he's always thought this is a very, very good horse. Needs to get him to settle, but he did it.
Yeah, I was disappointed with him in the field and I thought we'd have a chance in that, and then kind of dismissed him on the back of that performance when it came into this. But we used a Sir Michael Stout cliche earlier, but what price would he be if he was trained by Aidan O'Brien? This was a really, really impressive performance. I'd question the form. Illinois looked really awkward, hung badly in second. But yeah, Ambient Friendly, finished third last season behind Ancient Wisdom. So the form kind of was there. Yep. But is that going to be good enough going into the Derby is a slight question mark. I was really pleased for Callum Shepherd. He's kind of he's had a good couple of weeks, and I think this will be his first Derby ride. So,
Yeah.
yeah, nice horse, but yeah, wouldn't
Positive about Ambient Friendly, who is 8-1 with Bet365 for the Great Race. Still the Great Race.
Without a doubt.
Steve, Ambient Friendly appealed as a Derby winner to you?
No, I think I mainly agree with Steve. My only slight issue with Saturday, I was talking to you about this beforehand, and it's only a real slight niggle. There was a marked advantage at Lingfield on Saturday to race near the stand rail. We see that we're going to talk about one of the Group 3 fillies race later, which I thought was, you had no chance if you were 3 horses off the rail. Now, Ambient Friendly didn't come right the way over, but he did race the closest. And there's something in the back of my mind that suggests he was racing on better ground than one or two of the others. I'm loath to take it completely literally, what I saw, I suppose is what I mean.
Yeah.
Do I think, it was a very good performance, and absolutely I'd be excited if I was anything to do with connection about running the horse, and you'd think the horse would stay.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure I'd take that race completely at face value.
Yeah, and Steve's point about Illinois and the strength of form just leaves you a little bit hollow for just how good a race that was as a guide to the best race, hopefully, for the 3-year-olds for the season.
I also thought it was really interesting. So I dismissed him for the fact that he raced keenly over a mile and one in a hood. They took the hood off. He went up in trip. And I was like, you stand absolutely no chance of settling. Yeah. And Callum Shepherd did an unbelievable job of getting him settled in the race.
That was a massive thing. And I think in recent articles, they've spoken about that being the main thing, trying to get him to settle. So they're on the right track. Arabian Crown is the 7-2 joint favourite for the Derby with, I still find it hard to say, City of Troy. I know Auguste Rodin won the Derby off the back of a blowout last year, but it's a different story. Ambient Friendly 8-1, Ancient Wisdom 8-1 ahead of the Dante. Los Angeles 8-1, Diego Velasquez 14s, Capulet 16s, Caviar Heights 20s, and some others. Bellum Justin 25s who won the race. Epsom, Dancing Gemini, who ran well in France, 33-1. Okay, who's the Derby winner at this stage? I'm bearing in mind the Dante is still to come.
Yeah, the Dante might be run on soft grounds. I think Ancient Wisdom may well, if that's the case, may well win. But if you could guarantee me soft ground at Epsom, I think it'd be a player. I think the betting's about right in terms of the Arabian Crown. I think it's got least to prove. I thought it was impressive at Sandown. I think stamina's definitely not going to be a problem. He looks a real straightforward professional horse, which I quite like.
Yeah.
I mean, City of Troy may win, but I'd back 30 horses before about City of Troy. Just because another one from the yard did that, it's now accepted. That's why I don't think Aidan O'Brien set out to have the horse run terribly in the 2,000 Guineas as part of his master plan. Yeah. I mean, he ran absolutely awful in the Guineas. Awful.
Okay, so I'll put it to both of you. Aidan O'Brien's point about the horse going in the stalls, becoming upset, and his heart rate going from 125 to 150 and then 200, and so by the time he gets to halfway, there's nothing to give because he'd got upset in the stalls. And that being one of the reasons, along with the fact that perhaps he hadn't done enough because he treated, I'm using his quote, he treated the horse like a god.
He was beat 4 out, Rish. He wasn't beat. It wasn't like he's run well for 6 furlongs. He was beaten miles out.
So with that in mind, that's what I'm saying. Those comments that Aidan has made in relation to it has got to be the main reason why City of Troy is 7-2. Because if you remove the comments and just look at the performance, there's no way he should be 7-2 for the Derby.
It's Aidan O'Brien. Everyone knows he's a fantastic trainer, and that's.
But if Aidan had come out of the race and go, "I'm baffled. I have no idea what happened."
That's what he said on the day. Yeah. That's exactly what he said on the day.
So which one do we take?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's up to you. It depends on what. I mean, you know, his 2-year-old. He's a great 2-year-old.
Terrific.
If he's right and if he's got it back to his 2-year-old form, yeah, absolutely, he should be favourite for the Derby. But it all depends what you are as a punter. I mean, I will applaud if the horse wins, but it wouldn't even be remotely on my mind.
Just remember, he's 16-1.
He's 16-1. He's enormous heart.
Looking back at the game,
he was into him.
He was last in. He was in for what? 2 seconds.
Yeah,
like
seconds.
I'm not having that as an excuse. Yeah. I'm more than happy to excuse one run, but you'd want a bigger price to then be able to do that.
There's also the spectre of his dam not training on, and there's that as well. So there's enough of that. So who is your likeliest winner of the Derby then right now?
I actually like one from the Dante, so I'm going to keep my
powder dry
cards close to my chest.
Good.
Oh, right. Okay.
You're going to have to keep scrolling, Rish.
Not God's Window.
No.
Not Elmer's Mate. Okay, we'll save it. We'll save it. Okay. All right. So that's a little look at some of what we've seen in terms of what we saw at Ascot, Lingfield, Chester. We should also mention, I mean, Los Angeles was very impressive winning the Derby trial, and he's putting together a nice profile. He sounds like he's going to be part of Aidan's team, which is also interesting when you consider that it was just City of Troy lining up in the Guineas because that's all they needed.
Yeah.
Now it's possible they might need some backup.
Yeah, I thought he was entitled to win as he did. It didn't look the strongest race on paper, but it was a nice performance. I don't think he's ever going to be flashy with what he did. Again, 8-1 is fair for the Derby, but I'd be looking at some at the bigger prices. I'm sure you were pleased to see Never So Brave win impressively for Sir Michael Stout. I thought he...
Stable flying.
Yeah, I thought he'd be a nice one for the Britannia.
Yeah.
At Royal
I've heard
Ascot.
people mention the jersey for him as well. I'm not sure I want to do that step.
Yeah, I didn't this morning actually check what mark he got given. I'll do that while Steve's going through. And I've got a bit of a left field one that I'll touch on at the end, if that's all right.
Okay. Mention the two horses in front, or the two races in France, Steve, if we can, the French 1,000 guineas and the 2,000 guineas. Ruhia, steeped as all the Aga Khan horses in that Aga Khan family. I thought she was really impressive.
Yeah.
Primarily because of how the race was run and Romantic Style sat on her outside. And I think ideally Ruhia would have been in a slightly better position but had to cede it to Romantic Style. So I thought she was a very smart winner.
The great picture you see, they showed an overhead later. I think she's quite... I liked her attitude.
Yes.
So there was fillies who would maybe think twice about it. Now, the times can be misleading because they had a huge rain shower in between the two Guineas, so I'm not taking it literally. But just for what it's worth, it was 1.85 seconds faster than the Colts.
Right.
Everything about her, her run style and her breeding, she's by Lake de Vega, out of a middle distance winner. I mean, the race they're going to go for is the French Oaks for sure. And I think she's got a really, really strong claim to that. She's lightly raced. She's a typical Aga Khan middle distance improver. I love the families that they've got, and I was really taken by. I thought she did very well to win at a mile because I think that's not a distance she'll be running at too many more times.
She's an exciting filly, really, isn't she? Everything about her suggests there's going to be progression, the family, the pedigree, the run style.
Yeah, I thought that was more a race to take out than the Colts equivalent, to be honest. I thought that was stronger form with Vespertilio and Romantic Style in behind. I thought the French 2,000 Guineas was a little bit of a mess. I thought Metropolitan was entitled to win and was probably a worthy winner on the day. I don't think it's going to be one of these races that if you ran again, there'd be a different result. I do think he was a worthy winner on the day, but you look at the likes of Dancing Gemini, Diego Velasquez in behind, and I wouldn't think it's the strongest form going forward.
Yeah.
I did actually flick forward to have a look at the Royal Ascot market for the St James's Palace in the hope that Bet365 would have pushed him out to a bit of a ridiculous price because it was pretty much a piece of work. Like, he just didn't get involved. But he's still 4-1 for that, and I'd want bigger than that. He's only a point bigger than Rosalian, who's finished second in the 2,000 Guineas. Like, if you ask me who I want to back out of those two, it's definitely going to be Rosalian.
Indeed, I would agree with that. Obviously, notable speech hangs over that for the St James's Palace Stakes, 6-4 favourite with Bet365, Rosalian 3-1, Henry Longfellow 4-1. On that 2,000 guineas in France, Steve, Dancing Gemini might be a possible for the Derby itself. Roger Teal was saying, he's quite open about it before the race, saying he's not sure whether he's an Epsom Derby horse or a French Derby horse. But he thinks he is going to be better over further, and he made it quite clear this is a prep run for one of those races. When in the context of it, I thought it was quite good, considering what Steve pointed out about the fact that it was a messy race. They crawled, sprinted, slightly unsatisfactory in that aspect. I thought it was a really good run.
Yeah, I've given his run so well there, and obviously found the travelling not a problem. I'd be tempted to run. To go up slightly, to go up to the French Derby personally, rather than Epsom, where there's a bit of an unknown about the track for him. That's where I would go, but he certainly earned his right to run in one.
Yeah. Was there anything else from the last week? I mean, you mentioned obviously Never So Brave, which would be one that I was going to mention, but you stole that off me.
Just quickly on that, he's up £7 to 101. So
okay.
If that pushes him into Jersey rather than Britannia, you'll see.
I just thought you, Rish, really. I thought the horse won in Ireland, Wendler.
Yes.
I thought you'd have loved the family. I mean, it's the family of Bankshield Intercom.
Yeah,
it's a fabulous family.
Yeah.
I'm not at all surprised. I know that it was she dominated. Who knows the strength of the race, but That's the first time the horse had a chance to run on top of the ground.
Which
It's
is
a
what the family...
From Dan Silly onwards. They've got form on soft ground, because they're good horses, but their peak form, almost without doubt, Banks Hill in particular, was liked it like a road.
Yeah, so she won the Breeders' Cup in some amazing time because it was like...
Absolutely. It's a brilliant family. Yeah. And all her previous run had been on soft ground. So, because a lot was made about other horses in the race, I think people might underestimate Wendler, given those conditions.
But you two keep stealing my thunder, because that was, yes, the family, but also I think the thing that struck me was Joe Lyons mentioned after the race, said, I didn't realise she was that quick. He thought she was going slowly. Which is ironic considering that all that family were at their best on fast ground and they all had speed. Dan Silly, Intercontinental, Banks Hill, they're all at their best on that sort of ground. So looking forward to the Buttons was the horse, and One Look, who'd won the sales race, were the two horses that were behind. I thought that was...
One that was disappointing. Whatever way you use it. Buttons, you could argue, has still run okay.
Still green. I think she's got more to come.
I agree.
It was a good race.
You'd be pushed to say something positive about One Look.
One Look, that was disappointing. Anything else?
My kind of one from left field. If you go back and watch Sean T on Saturday, the opening race, Delius, was really impressive. It's well worth going back and having a watch. He's a massive horse. He didn't run at 2.
Maybe he's named after the former chaser. Do you remember the...
Yes, I do remember that. Absolutely I do.
Yeah, big horse, takes his time to get going. He's by Frankel, trained by Jean-Claude Rouget, ridden by Christian Demero. Unraced at 2, made a winning debut at Longchamp over 1.2 miles in April, beat a subsequent winner that day that's trained by Andre Fabre. This was over 1.5 miles, and he's just the type to keep progressing through those French races and end up in the Arc. I looked it up, Bet365 is 40-1. 2 from 2 in his career. And I think he's a massive price. I went through the art market, like it's 20-1 the field. There's no standout contender, and he's just the type that I think is going to impress through the year. So, Delius, I think, is one to keep an eye on for the rest of the year.
We'll be looking back at this.
Mine would be the Chester Cup as a consolation race. I think that's a race that will work out. Just briefly, I'm talking about there was a Group 3 Great Generation one at Lingfield. Did well to overcome trouble in running to win. But that was by then, I think every jockey had realised you had to be on the rail, and they were almost falling on top of each other to try and get the rail. And I would take some of that form we saw at the weekend. Though not to say, I'm probably being unfair about the Derby trial because it wasn't right over. But I do think Lingfield was
huge bias
on the straight course, massive,
huge bias,
absolutely massive.
Okay, well that brings us to a close for Racing Recap, but lots more still to come on this show. Okay, before we get into our York and weekend preview, just to let you know that our sponsor, Bet365, have a best odds guaranteed offer. It is available on every single UK and Irish race from 8 a.m. on the day of the race. If you take a price and the SP is bigger, Bet365 will pay you at the bigger odds. Full T's and C's can be found on the website. And so to the Dante Festival. What isn't a festival these days? And some good racing. Just looking at the potential fields that we've got for the 3 days of the meeting. It looks exciting. And we start off talking about the Duke of York Clipper Stakes. I mean, it looks a terrific race. Azure Blue is back in action after a long layoff, having looked a worldie at some points last season.
Yep.
But there are some other really good sprinters in there that I think could have a big part to play. I mean, Steve, I'll start with you and how you would play this race as a punter with the uncertainty of being confident. I think she's 5-1 with Bet365. Azure Blue for the race.
Yeah, as a punter, I'd swerve her, but not surprised again. I just think it's the July Cup, isn't it? Last time we saw her, I don't know. I think we had a clue for the race. Whether we get the right interpretation of the clues is another matter. But at Newmarket, where several of these met, Washington Heights, Millstream, Spycatcher, I was taken with the run of Spycatcher that day. And I'd also taken with comment both pre and after the race, where I remember Colbert being very concerned about running the horse on fast ground, was surprised that his jockey chose Spycatcher over his stable companion on the ground. Anyway, I think it outrun expectations, and from a very early stage, they've booked Ryan Moore to ride this horse. And the rain overnight, or today, which I think they're guaranteed to get, is going to ensure that the ground is livelier than it was at Newmarket. So that would be the way I went, personally.
Well, Carl Burke's got a quartet of sprinters, and all 4 you can make a case for.
Absolutely.
Marshman, though, after that, he's been pretty disappointing. I've expected much better from him, especially after a decent comeback run. Is Carl Burke the key to the race, or do you look elsewhere, Steve?
So my first thought was Azure Blue, and then I saw an interview with Michael Dodds and said that he's pretty sure that she'll need this run. She had problems with her feet and bits and pieces after the July Cup, hence why we didn't see her again. But is there anything in this race that could have beaten Highfield Princess? You'd probably say no, but by the sounds of it, this is going to be work in progress for the year going forward. I thought Montasib was the one to be with. I thought he was really progressive. Should appreciate the forecast rain that Steve touches on. Should arrive today and tomorrow. He has a few pounds to find on ratings, but has the benefit of race fitness over Azure Blue and Swing Along, who both have good course and distance form. He does as well, though. He won a 22-runner handicap here last season, won the Camage Trophy on his reappearance, and I thought 7-1. I thought that was very fair.
Yeah. There are a number of, I mean, so many horses in this race you can make a case for. I like Millstream, who I've always thought was a progressive horse last season. Obviously did well to win a pattern race in France, and then he's had to come back run, second run after a wind up now as well. No confidence, because I think it's a really tough race to find the winner, but I liked Millstream. Talking about jockey bookings, and Will Buick has been jocked up on him as well for some time. So that would be the play in the race for me.
Sorry, talking to John, we ought to mention the fact that Kieran Fallon's kept the ride on Montasib, which I think was deserved.
Yeah.
I'm Tom Marquand's biggest fan, don't get me wrong, but I think it was a really good ride at Doncaster, wasn't it?
Doncaster,
really good ride that day. And it'd be unfortunate if you're not rewarded by...
Yeah.
He obviously built an affinity with the horse, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say, just observing Kieran Fallon this season, I think he's riding better than he's ever done.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah.
I really think he's gone up a gear. I think he's probably being back at the Haggis Yard virtually full time. I think he's a really, really big platform. I think he'll have a very good year.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very impressed with what I've seen so far. The Musidora takes place on the Knavesmire, and I'm excited about this race. Friendly Souls, the 10-11 favourite with Bet365. Second in the market is Classical Song at 13-2, Mayfair 7-1, and then double figures, or Francophones 9-1, then double figures the remainder. Steve, how impressed were you with Friendly Soul at Newmarket, and what do you think?
I was really impressed. I was against her on the day because a lot of John and Thady Gosdens have needed the first run of their season. So I was against her. She was weak in the market, and I was really impressed with what she's done. See Just in Time was a notable absentee in the declarations for this. She has shortened up. But the stable's record in this race is brilliant. They've won it for the last 2 seasons with Emily Upjohn and Soul Sister. They also won it 3 years in a row, 2015, 16 and 17 with Star of Seville, Somidar and Shutter Speed. I think she's definitely a worthy favourite. Like I said, I was against her on the day in the Pretty Polly. But she was really impressive. The way that the market suggested Kalpana was absolutely smashed off the boards, went off 4-6. They pulled 12 lengths clear of the third that day. And when Friendly Soul got back into the break, when she took a blow, I think she'll definitely come on for that run. There's going to be a bit of pressure on Kieran Schumacher this week on his rides, and this is going to be the one that really starts the week well. She's shortened into, I think she's just a shade of odds on at the minute, 10-11, I think, with Bet365. I'd definitely rather be a backer than a layer at that price, and I don't often get stuck in at odds on, but I'd happily back her at that price.
Yeah, I thought it was I'm agreeing with what Steve's saying. The performance at Newmarket I thought was huge, considering the stable form at the time, but also the fact that her and Kalpana have pulled so far clear. And Kalpana, we saw how impressive she was first time up this season, and she travelled up to win her race.
She did. Again, you get some interesting comments reading between the lines from trainers. And one of the comments John Gosden made afterwards, after talking about Friendly Song, he's obviously got a reasonable regard for Strutter. And I think he was quite surprised that she was beaten as far as she was beaten. And I think he sees her as a stayer. I'm not saying it wasn't. He didn't expect her to be beaten. Yeah. I think that form is probably very, very solid. She's not in the Oaks, is she? But I think I agree with everything Steve. I think she's a worthy short price favourite. The second favourite is trained by Rafe Beckett, who's got a fantastic angle on the fillies, and Classical Song had good 2-year-old form last year, absolutely. But I think Friendly Souls will be extremely hard to beat, unless the ground turns into something, a complete bog. I think she's got outstanding claims.
Are you surprised at all that it appears that Epsom is not on her radar, Friendly Soul, at the moment?
Yeah, I suppose I was surprised. Yeah. No, I suppose I am. Yeah. I think yeah, you'd be you. The way she finished the race off at Newmarket, you'd be hopeful she'd get a bit further, wouldn't you?
Well, she's related to Call the Wind.
Yeah.
Who was probably one of the best stayers in Europe over the last couple of seasons. So.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on and talk about the Middleton, for which last year's winner, Free Wind, is back. Blue Stocking, who had a couple of options, Steve, is heading to this race as well.
Yeah, she was in the Aston Park Stakes at Newbury on Saturday, but decided to come here. We touched on a Sir Michael Stout improving 4-year-old earlier on the show in the shape of Passenger. I'm really hoping that Infinite Cosmos can kind of fulfil some of her early promise in this. She was a really impressive winner on a reappearance last year. I absolutely loved her at Newmarket. Finished third in the Musidora behind Soul Sister, and then clearly had issues. She was off 126 days. She ran at Yarmouth. She only finished third that day, but I think that was really just a run at the end of the season to see what they've got. She was notably weak in the market that day. She's got about £10 to find on ratings. But with both Blue Stocking and Free Wind, I feel like we know their level. And I think Infinite Cosmos, we don't know how good she is. And she could just progress past them, I think. 8-1, has form fresh. Ryan Moore back on board. Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
Well, Free Wind is 6-4 favourite at Bet365. Blue Stocking 9-4. Sapphire Seas 4-1. Infinite Cosmos 8-1, and then Nova 16s and Carnarvon 20. Steve, how do you see it?
I think it's a race I definitely wouldn't be having a bet in. I'm lukewarm on both the two horses at the head of the market. Really, can't get out of my mind Blue Stocking get beaten at Chester, a race that she should have won, and I think she wants a mile and a half. Really, ideally anyway. And Free Wind for all. There's some very good piece of form, don't get me wrong. She's also capable of throwing in the odd, not such good run. So I will cheer on Infinite Cosmos for Steve.
I'm going to cheer on, obviously.
I can see the argument. I mean, it'd be it's taking up, an awful lot of the market, and I've got reasons for not being with either of the favourites.
On Free Wind, if the rain does come, that's also a negative for her. I think it would be fair to say
A lot of rain would be,
her better form is on better
agreed.
ground, I think.
It would be in favour of Blue Stocking, to be fair.
It would be in favour of Blue Stocking, but she does not win enough.
That's my feeling.
I mean, that's clearly the issue for her.
That's my feeling.
Right, the Dante Stakes, obviously the big trial, the last big trial for the Derby. Ancient Wisdom, the winner of the Futurity at Doncaster, 11-10 favourite. Al Musmak 7-2. Caviar Heights 4-1, Cambridge 10s, Economics 12s, God's Window 20s, and War Rooms 25. Ancient Wisdom, I think you've touched on it a couple of times now. If the ground is on the soft side, a good bet?
No, it wouldn't be a good bet for me, but I think for her for him to run to his best, I think the softer the better.
Okay.
If you could tell me what the ground definitely was on Thursday. You know what I mean? It's just on the soft side of good. Not saying the horse wouldn't perform, wouldn't run okay, but I think he becomes much more vulnerable. If it comes up very soft, we have a lot of rain today and it carries on tomorrow, then I would argue he's got a very good chance. I know Steve likes running the race and he should have a stronger view than me. All I will say is I really like Caviar Heights' win at Newmarket. A good time. Yeah. I thought it was a big improvement on the previous run. And I think at form claims, I think he's got pretty sound claim because he seems to be getting better. A Martin Falter, I think, might be his trip as well. I know he's entered in the Derby, but I think that might be bang on his trip. And I can see it. I'm looking forward to seeing Economics run, who I like as a horse. He's just a big step up in class. So for a tip, for what it's worth, I'd go for Caviar Heights, unless the ground is extremely soft, in which case I think the favourite would be hard to beat.
Okay. And Steve, what is it that you like in this race?
So we'll touch on Ancient Wisdom first. I think we've got a lot of rain today and tomorrow, but with the temperatures that we've got outside, it could well dry up by the time this race comes away. I think it's about 3:05 on Thursday. It could dry up to good to soft. And Ancient Wisdom at the back end of last season showed his best form on soft and heavy ground. I, like Steve, was impressed with Caviar Heights when I was at Newmarket last time, but Al Musmak would be the horse for me. This is his reappearance, which, again, just like the John Gosden stable, for Roger Varian, they have been stepping forward for that first one. So that would be a slight negative, but it would also mean that he's 50-1 for the Derby. So if he was finishing second here, he could well step forward for that, albeit that the trip of a mile and a half might be a slight question mark. If you go back through his form, I was really impressed, and it's working out well. He won on his debut, finished second behind Rosalian in that race at Ascot.
What a race that is.
If you now look back at that, he had Ancient Wisdom, Alien Arby, Dancing Gemini and Sunway all behind him. Yeah. They've all boosted the form since. He then won at Haydock, beating Macduff and Ramard. They finished second and third behind Arabian Crown at Sandown, and then finished second behind Ghostwriter in the Royal Lodge. He obviously then went on to run well in the 2000 Guineas. Further back in that was Capulet, who then went on to win the Dee Stakes. So the more I look back at his form, the more I thought, hang on a minute, he's got a proper chance if he's ready to go on this reappearance. Now, he's been quite strong in the market, anti-post, and obviously now that we've got declarations, I think he's into 7-2 now.
7-2 with Bet360.
Which takes away the each-way angle in the race. But I think with Ancient Wisdom also making his reappearance and a slight question mark if they don't get all that rain and it's dried out a bit, I do think he's quite a likely winner at 7-2. And I think if he was to win this, connections are quite sporting, and I do think they'd probably let him take his chance in the Derby, for which is 50-1 with Bet365.
Okay.
So brief mention, just touch on economics. I'm, a fan of the Lancashire. I think he's an excellent trainer. It's unlike him. Normally has a winner of a maiden. I'd say 9 times out of 10, he'd carry a penalty in a novice race, and he had an entry at Salisbury, fun enough, on the same day. It's not what he normally does to pitch the horse like that straight into Group 2 or something, which I take as a positive. So I'm very interested in how he runs. You couldn't argue from a form point of view he can win. I suspect it might be a fair bit better than we've seen so far.
Not entirely certain how much of a betting race this is. I did do some deep diving into the form and pedigree of Al Musmak. The only thing I'd say is the pedigree suggests there's nothing in there beyond a mile. I mean, I've looked through the last his 3 dams, and there's nothing that screams he wants any further than a mile. And then the 2 defeats that he had last year behind Ghostwriter, and obviously the one admittedly behind Rosalian, where he was a long way behind Rosalian. He doesn't hit the line hard looking like he's going to be a strong miler or step up in trips. So in the end, it put me off him, both for the if I'm honest, for the Dante and also for the Derby. I can't see it. However, he does have a touch of class. That's what I think will be on his side. I mean, he proved that. That's the form that you talk about. It's outstanding. And if Ancient Wisdom doesn't run up to his best, I can see him perhaps being too good for the rest. But if Ancient Wisdom is ready to roll, I think he'll probably win. The Yorkshire Cup, on paper, it looks like it could be an outstanding race. Tower of London has looked a really improved performer for the Aidan O'Brien team. That's the 5-4 favourite. Vauban's in there at 4-1. This is all with Bet365. Kyprios 9-2. Hamish 6-1. Al Karim 13-2. Last year's winner Giavolotto 13-2. Gregory 13-2. I mean, who knows exactly what's going to line up. But it's possible, Steve, that we might get a really good race. But then who knows? But Tower of London has looked really good in his 2 weeks.
I doubt Tower of London and Kyprios will turn up. I doubt.
Kyprios
Not, he does run 2, but I can't see that's going to happen. Yeah, he's looked he's a good horse last year, to be fair. He ran in a lot of the races for embryo stayers, didn't he?
Yeah.
He ran at Newmark, he ran well in the Ledger. So absolutely, he's carried on that improvement. He's been impressive in Dubai, and he's clearly I think the up-and-coming stayer. And I can see that. And if we're talking about good to soft, no worse, then I think he's, absolutely. And I'd love Hamish to run well. I'm a massive fan of the horse. Yeah. But I think that probably does want them a monsoon.
Do you think he'll definitely run at York or Newbury? I'm not...
I think he'll run wherever it's softer.
Softer, yeah, fair enough. How do you see the Yorkshire Cup?
So Giavoletto obviously won this last year, but beat Eldar Eldarov, Broome and Quickthorn, and this is just a much stronger contest this year, so I discount him. Tower of London I thought has looked good on his 2 starts this year. I thought the interesting one was Vauban, because it's going to be interesting to see how they campaign him, because if Willie Mullins and Rich Ritchie are wanting to win the Melbourne Cup again, do you want to be winning races like this with an eye on a handicap mark? So the one that I ended up coming down on was Gregory at the prices. Now, he progressed really quickly last season. He had 3 runs in the space of 2 months, ending up with a victory in the Queen's Vase at Royal Ascot. He was beaten here in the Great Voltigeur and again in the St Ledger, but I just think that quick group of runs together probably paid for him. They've given him plenty of time off. He only actually has £2 to fine with Tower of London on weight-adjusted ratings. And, I thought he was probably the each-way play into the race. He always looked the type to progress with age, so I'd give a chance to Gregory.
All right, Gregory in the Yorkshire Cup might be the play. The Lockinge on Saturday, it's possible, again, we might get a very good race. Clearly, in Spiral, seems to be on target for the race. Big Rock, Sharon's been very good this season. It might be the return of dear old Royal Scotsman. But at the moment, Inspiral's a 6-4 favourite with Bet365. Big Rock's 2-1. Sharon 5s. Poker Face 13-2. Royal Scotsman's 12s. 16's Flight Plan Real World, who was obviously runner-up to Baid in the race at one time, 20-1. And then High Royal placing the Guineas last year, 25-1. 33-1 bar those. How do you see it? Is Inspiral vulnerable? Big Rock, best miling performance we saw last season in QE2?
It was definitely the best miling performance, but I'd be worried about the stable switch only a month ago. I'd be against the top two in the market in this. Big Rock, that would be a question mark for me, and the ground. I don't think Newbury's going to get as much rain as what we think looking at the forecast ahead, so that would be a question mark for him. Inspiral, this just isn't the time of the year for her, is it? She missed the Guineas and then went to Royal Ascot. She didn't run in this last year before finishing second in the Queen Anne, so I'd be worried about her, especially with the wet and cold winter. I think she takes a while to actually get into her training. If you'd have told me that I was back in Charing for a Lockinge at the start of the season, I thought I'd have told you were mad. But it's Charing and Poker Face that I've come down on, just for that form of that Bet365 mile stakes at Sandown last time. Poker Face has a £3 swing from that day with Charing. Royal Scotsman kind of faces question marks in this, who was the other alternative, but his season kind of petered out last year. I'd probably Dutch the two, and it's not something I normally do in these races, but I just think with that massive question marks around the others around them at the top of the market, I thought 5-1 and 13-2, you could happily back them both each way in this.
We'd rather Dutch 5-1 and 13-2 Sharon and Poker Face than Inspiral and Big Rock.
Big time. I'd be well against those at the top of the market, and I just think that the two are absolutely rock solid.
Alternative view, Steve? Or
No, I think it's a very easy race to play, personally.
Love it.
I'd back Sharon each way now, with three. But then and then if the heavens happen to open, I would make sure Big Rock wasn't losing for me, because I do think it's an exceptional miler. But I think that
And you think
exceptional
the
form,
ground, obviously, is...
I think it appears to be vital.
Yeah.
I agree with everything that Steve said about Inspiral. I fancy Sharon to confirm the form, personally. I thought he won sort of despite things. What I would love for him, and he didn't really get it at Doncaster and he didn't get it at Sandown, is an actual proper, truly run miler. I think that would really show. I think he's a strong staying miler. But he's definitely going to run in the race, barring things that can happen over the next few days. I can't see any reason he shouldn't run well. And there are doubts about horses who are making the market.
Yeah, well, there's doubts about the horse I like, that Steve's already referred to, which is Royal Scotsman. But I'm looking back at his runs in the Dewhurst and the Guineas, and it's conceivable that you could be talking about a horse who should have won the Dewhurst and was a bit unlucky with the way the race panned out. And he made part of his own luck by being a bit too keen in the early part of the Guineas. But I felt on both those occasions he might have just been about the best horse in the race. He picked up an injury, disappointed after that, and picked up an injury and has been off since. But the stable are flying. Yeah, they remain convinced he's a very good horse, and he's 12-1 for a race which I agree. There's exactly the points that you've both. I think Inspiral's vulnerable first time up, but the ground, I think he'll be better on the quicker ground. So I'm hoping you're right about that. So he would be my play in the Lockinge on the weekend. Now there are a host of other options for anything else that we like for that. There's loads of good racing this week. There's Newbury, Newmarket, York, etc. Do you want to give me something else now, or do you want to wait till we do our best selections? Do you want to wait?
I'll wait. I'll just say the same thing twice.
Oh, perfect.
Otherwise, I'll just say the same thing twice.
I'm going to give you two and then save my best bet.
And then save the best bet. Great.
Wow, good.
The first one isn't going to be a bet, but Big Evs is well worth watching in the 4:15 on Thursday. That's the listed Westow Stakes at York. Was one of the great stories last year for Mick Appleby, one at Royal Ascot, one at the Breeders' Cup. Amazing. Should really make a winning reappearance. He was odds on, I think, about 8-11. Yeah. Obviously, we haven't had the revised betting up at the time of recording. And then just one to keep an eye on York on Friday in the 5 furlong handicap is Moswart. The whispers going around Newmarket for this horse were significant ahead of the Guineas meeting. He halved in price to 6-1. And just didn't handle the track at all. If you ever want to go back and watch a replay of a horse not handling Newmarket, that was it. He drops to 5 furlongs for the first time in his career. Crucially, drops from a Class 2 0 to 100 handicap into a Class 3 0 to 90 handicap off top weight. Hopefully he gets declared, and yeah, a more conventional track. I thought Moswart would be a really strong selection on Friday.
Okay, so some good info, hopefully, about all of that. But, as they say, the best is yet to come. And before we get into our best bets of the upcoming week, just to let you know of a free-to-play 6 horses challenge. It's available every weekend with prize pools available for 5 and 4 correct predictions, as well as a jackpot for all 6. T's and C's apply. Time for our best bets of the week. And Steve, you are first on the block.
Okay, yeah, I really like the horse. If for some reason it doesn't run, it's still a horse I'd have in mind for good races. I like Goodwood Odyssey. I really like the way the horse has been trained. Again, David Mourinho is a trainer I look at quite a lot, and I think it's fair to say he trains his horses. They get fitter with runs. I don't think he's a horse who gets horses buzzed up first time out. So it took my eye first time winning at Salisbury on his first ever run. That surprised me a bit. I thought he won in really good style. I thought, he's an interesting runner. And he's brought him along this year, ran him on the all-weather, which would be a mile on the all-weather was never going to be fun. I thought he's run very well behind a warm favourite. And then he went to Sandown last time out, and luckily it is a happy day for me. I did back it, and he found so much trouble in running on the far rail, stuck behind horses. When he finally got out, I thought he's going to run a really good second here, and he's absolutely mullered them. He's picked up really well, and I thought that this is way better than his handicap. Now, the handicap had gone posh £7, which I think has taken literally what he won by. I think he would value much, much more than that. And the London Cup's always a very competitive handicap, full of really interesting 3-year-olds who could develop into pattern class horses. Yeah. What I'm saying, I think he's one of those. And at the moment, he's an 8-1 chance with Bet365, which is
He's 13-2 now.
Well, he wasn't 2 minutes ago. So
now, I mean, this is the price crash in the middle of your
I think he's
sentence.
got a great chance. I think he's got a really good chance. I think Newbury suits him. I think a galloping track is what he wants. Yeah. And as long as it doesn't, the ground I don't know yet. Both his runs have taken place, to be fair. It was good to soft at Sandown. So I don't know what he'd be like on very fast ground. I don't think that's going to happen. And if he didn't run here, I think it'd be an interesting run for the big handicaps at Royal Ascot.
Goodwood Odyssey, 13-2, Bet365 for the London Gold Cup at Newbury on Saturday.
8-1 if you ask nicely, because it was there, though.
I mean,
I've got good eyesight from here. I've read your notes and put a bet on while you're there.
What have you got for us?
So I'm wary that I'm tipping a horse on Wednesday at 2:15, but you've had 24 hours to watch the show. So if you are late, sorry, it's probably already won. But in the Jorvik handicap on Wednesday, the 2:15, it's Mahaba the champ. He's 2 from 2 from York in his career. Beat Marie's Diamond off a mark of 90 in May on this card last season on his reappearance. Then won on Nunthorpe Day, beating Bagdoor by 1.5 lengths off a mark of 91. That rival boosted the form, winning at Newmarket on his reappearance and is rated £8 higher. Mahaba the champ is now only £6 higher. So on those ratings, he should have a massive chance. Disappointed at Newmarket on his final start, but that can be excused. He's been gelded over the winter. He's unbeaten at the track. He has form fresh, and he still looks competitively handicapped. So at 4-1, I thought Mahaba the champ would prove hard to beat in the Jorvik handicap on Wednesday.
Okay, Mahaba the champ. Goodwood Odyssey, and I'm going for London City, who runs on Thursday of York. Now, he had 2 entries. He was entered at York during the week, and he was also entered in the London Gold Cup. I watched him win at Dundalk, and he's a big horse. He's by Justify out of Winter, so he's got a terrific pedigree. He's a big grey horse. He had 2 runs at the back end of last season in Ireland, and he just looked to be all at sea. He looked a little bit more furnished, but also still a little bit at sea. I think there's masses of improvement to come from him. Disappointingly, he's got a rating in the low 90s, but I think that he's going to be a pattern horse in time. And I'm pleased that they've gone for the weaker option at York rather than taking the London Gold Cup. I've looked through the race at York, and it looks a much more winnable race than the one, obviously, with Goodwood Odyssey and a few other dark horses. So I think this is a horse that's going to go on a steep upward curve, having got his head in front at Dundalk. So London City in the 5:20 at York on Thursday. So just to recap, London City, York Thursday, 5:20 for me. Mohammed the Champ opening up proceedings at York at the Dante Meeting for Steve, and Goodwood Odyssey for Steve Mellish, who is running in the London Gold Cup at Newbury on Saturday. And that's the end of all the winners coming your way from this week's show. Obviously, many more winners to come later on through the flat season. Just to wrap things up, Steve, before we say goodbye, the way that the flat season has gone, I know you talked about what an exciting time. Would the Derby be your favourite moment of the season on the flat? I know we've been friends for a long time, but I sort of question, I mean, is that your...
Yeah, I guess it is. I'm a traditionalist like that. I love the build-up to the Derby, and I still think it's a fantastic race. I wish it was more, you're not as old as me, but I know you love sort of the Derbies of the 80s. I did like the idea where lots of different trainers could train for the Derby winner. That's become something which has been, it's less obvious. I mean, if it's not trained by Aidan O'Brien, Godolphin and maybe John Gosden, you're struggling. Yeah. That's a shame. But I live in hope that someone else will have a Derby horse. And I think the race itself, I think the race is brilliant. I think it's a proper test of a thoroughbred. Yeah. It's a stiff track. It's very difficult. It tests the horse's temperament, their balance, their generosity, and I think it stood the test in time of producing fantastic stallions. So, yeah, it's a great, great race, but I wish it was spread a little more around who has some of the good horses. But there you go, kind of it all.
Fair call. Steve, Chester ticked off the list the last week. Anywhere on the list for this week?
I attempted to go to York on Friday.
First time?
No, I've been,
Well, there you go. No. So nothing to tick off the list.
Nothing to tick off the list, but yeah, we'll keep an eye on the weather forecast.
See you at York on Friday if you make it. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Racing Weekly, brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. Thank you very much to Steve Ryder and Steve Mellish. Hopefully both of them are successful with all the selections. Thank you to them for joining me on the show. As always, if you like what you've heard or watched in this or any of our previous episodes, then please leave us a kind review on Apple Podcasts or in the comments section on YouTube, which have always been interesting. I still find them extremely interesting. So thank you for all the comments, even the ones that, aren't always the kindest, even though we ask. We're going to be back next week to have a look at the Irish Guineas and the Temple Stakes up at York. But for now, from the Racing Weekly team, bye-bye.